Hello and welcome to the latest instalment of GBN America with me, Patrick Christys. And wow, what a day to do it. We have loads to go at today, don't we? Not, of course, just with Trump's inauguration, but crucially, Biden's pardons and then what Trump has done since. And here to pick through all of it is the wonderful Gerard, Filitti, who is a Lawfare project senior counsel and attorney of note. Thank you very, very much for joining us today on GBN America. Great to have you on the show. Can we just start, please, by asking a bit about some of Joe Biden's pardons, especially people like Anthony Fauci? I was quite intrigued by that. Now, they're keen to say this doesn't imply that there's been any guilt there, but what do you think it really means, pardoning Fauci?
Well, it's really remarkable. It's the first time that we've really seen pardons being issued by a president to people who have not been charged or convicted of any crimes. These are preemptive, and this is unprecedented. It really speaks to the level that we've gotten to in the American legal system, where the Biden administration has waged lawfare against President Trump and his allies for years now, and it feels the need to politicize the pardon process and issue pardons to people who haven't been charged for anything. Ultimately, what this means, it reflects a concern among Democrats that the Trump administration would investigate and potentially prosecute Anthony Fauci and members of the January 6th committee in connection with the work that they did and any crimes that they committed.
Yeah, I mean, Fauci would deny any wrongdoing, no doubt, but a lot of people think he was kind of up to his neck in it when it came to everything coronavirus related, wasn't he? Whether that's from where this virus started, not that he had anything to do with that, but maybe a bit of prior knowledge about it, perhaps, or certainly the vaccine rollout, for example. But do you think that the Biden pardons are actually a response to them being worried about the way they went after Trump, that he might retaliate and they're trying to block that?
I think it absolutely is. It really reflects the fact that the Democrats did something in the last 4 years that was unprecedented. They went after a former president and his allies and people who worked for him, including his lawyers, on multiple counts in federal court, in state court, a massive lawfare effort. So it's easy to see how the Biden administration, suddenly realizing that it was losing in the courts and it had lost in the court of public opinion because Trump was obviously elected and inaugurated, now was facing retaliation, now was facing the flip side of lawfare, which means that their actions would be subjected to scrutiny and potential prosecution. So all of this, they opened Pandora's box when they started going after Donald Trump with a legal system, and the pardons are a direct consequence of that.
One of the things that really intrigues me is the Biden family pardons. Now, Elon Musk tweeted yesterday, this is the Biden crime family. Of course, again, they would deny that. But why would Biden need to pardon members of his own family? So I've got here his brother, apparently. You've got Sarah Jones Biden, who's his brother's wife, I think. You've got Valerie Biden Owens, which is Biden's sister. You got all of these people. Why is Biden pardoning just direct members of his own family who, frankly, don't appear to have had that much to do with the Biden presidency, have they?
Well, they didn't have much to do with the Biden presidency, but we have seen suggestions, we have seen evidence coming out in the last 2 years during investigations that his family members were implicated in receiving money from the government and providing loans in a way that may have been illegal, and also, of course, through Hunter Biden being involved in foreign schemes, potentially violating other federal laws about the registration of foreign agents. So there was a potential for prosecution for members of the Biden family after more investigation, which is why we saw those pardons.
To be honest with you, look, from an outside perspective, this does look very dodgy. It does really look as though that thing about the Biden crime family might have had some truth to it. I mean, what do you think?
Well, look, I think you don't issue pardons without there being something there. That's not what you do. A pardon is an expression of forgiveness. If you're pardoning something, what do they need to be forgiven for but their actions? And I think this was an attempt by Biden to insulate his family and, quite frankly, his legacy. He spent 50 years in public service, and he surely doesn't want that tainted by a legacy of money laundering or dealings or bribery or other allegations that would involve members of his family and ultimately point to him.
Let's shift to the January 6th committee, the House committee members there. So they spent 18 months investigating Trump and the so-called insurrection. The former Capitol Police officer Harry Dunn, who became an outspoken critic of Trump, told CBS News, "I wish this pardon wasn't necessary, but unfortunately the political climate we are now in has made the need for one somewhat of a reality." Another way of looking at that, of course, is that actually that was a corrupt committee that locked people up when they shouldn't have done and maybe overreached and unnecessarily attacked both President Trump and people who were involved in that January 6th Capitol attack. Where are you on that?
Look, I think there's no doubt that what happened on January 6th was improper, unacceptable, and in many cases illegal. But the government brought to bear so much weight to bring these people to prosecute them and to investigate Donald Trump for his actions in a way that we've never seen before. Remember, this is coming 2 years or 3 years after BLM riots all over the United States where people were not brought to justice. The government ignored the takeover of federal buildings, ignored the takeover of courthouses, ignored looting and rioting, but instead focused on January 6th. What happened January 6th, unacceptable, but putting the full weight of the government to make that somehow an issue that Donald Trump started and not an expression of popular discontent, that was going too far. So I think we will see under the Trump administration investigations into the prosecutions and into the J6 committee, why they did what they did, which was political.
We've also just got retired General Mark Milley as well. So could you just explain to our viewers and listeners over here in the UK who might not be entirely au fait with what's going on there, what's his relevance? Why has he been pardoned, do you think?
Well, the relevance also goes back to J6 and allegations of whether Trump involved the National Guard, whether he was trying to militarize the government, to involve that in the military, to involve that in a takeover of government. He's made some comments and statements that are quite frankly questionable and which have been disputed by many people in his chain of command. But ultimately, because of the public statements that he made, that exposed him to scrutiny and potentially to prosecution. So you see him being pardoned as well.
It's remarkable when you look at this, isn't it? So just zooming out for a second, you've got Dr. Anthony Fauci, who's the man really kind of in charge of, in a way, leading a lot of the country's coronavirus response. You've got, a serious senior general there. You've got the people who were in charge of investigating January 6th, which was one of the biggest news events and one of the most biggest events ever, really. You've got the Biden family itself. And you just look at that in the round and you think, goodness gracious me, that Biden regime and everything that they were talking about there, it does, you'd be forgiven for thinking there was something a bit crooked about the whole thing, wouldn't you?
Well, I think that's the point. It's that when we see this on the last day of the Biden presidency, when you see these pardons being issued, you have to start wondering what else is going on during his presidency that we're not familiar with, that we need to be looking at. But one point that should be made is these pardons don't actually prevent investigations from happening. These people, what a pardon means is that now they can actually be compelled to testify in an investigation or in someone else's criminal proceeding because they're no longer incriminating themselves. They've been pardoned. There's nothing to go after them for. So if Congress wants to call them and question them as witnesses in someone else's crime or a co-conspirator's crime, they're legally obligated to answer. And if they don't, they can be charged with that.
So do you expect that to happen going forward then? Do you expect that the Trump regime will do that, bearing in mind that various members of the Biden family, etc., have now got these pardons, that they will try to bring legal action against somebody else with links to them and then make these people testify?
I think that we will see some hearings and investigations going forward because the issue of the Biden family is not limited to the Biden family. Receiving money from Russia, from Ukraine, from China, from foreign adversaries of the United States, that's an issue of national concern. The Biden family had perhaps allegedly one small part in it, but in order to investigate the larger scheme, his family members should absolutely testify. And if they refuse, that would be not just incriminating, but that would expose them to other prosecutions.
I wonder if we're going to see anybody linked to anything that has been going on with the border issue as well. I look at some of Trump's biggest issues at the moment, ending that war in Ukraine. Well, the Biden family again appear to have been kind of up to their neck in that. He's talking about getting the Panama Canal back. How serious about that he is, I'm not sure, but he sounds it. Well, that would involve some negotiation or otherwise with China, who he feels have got an influence in that region now. You've mentioned China there. The border issue, the deportations. There appeared to me, again from an outsider's perspective, to be something remarkable going on there with the sheer volume of people coming across the border, the benefits that they were able to receive, and the complete unwillingness from people on the Democrats' perspective to do anything about that. To me, that screamed that some people must have been making a heck of a lot of money off that. And so I think it will be fascinating to see the way that Trump goes after them. Just to say about the people that Trump himself has now pardoned and releasing from prison, the January 6th hostages, as he calls them. What do you make of that? I mean, do you think that he's doing the right thing there?
Well, I think he is, generally speaking, doing the right thing. I think that he was smart in not fully pardoning the people who engaged in violent acts. That's not pardonable. That they should have that conviction hanging over them. Those sentences were commuted, but they still have the stigma of the conviction. But for the vast majority of people involved with J6 who have been charged with the J6, the government went after them with every tool in its tool belt. It went after them with charges that the Supreme Court found shouldn't apply or are not applicable. So that tells you that the vigorousness with which these people were pursued was improper, and that's why Donald Trump issued those pardons. It's not part of, they're being forgiven because they're on my side. They're being pardoned because the government went too far under Biden to prosecute them.
Yeah, I think that was actually really, really well articulated, because that can be lost in all of this. It looks as though, well, they were on my tribe and so I'm going to release them. But if there was actually lawfare and that the rule of law wasn't entirely properly followed, then yeah, like any other member of society, you would then have to be let out of prison or at least have a retrial, you would have thought, at the very least. Just to kind of round us off a little bit, really, if you don't mind. Last time Trump was in office, and then subsequently for the 4 years where he wasn't, he was dogged by attempts to haul him before a jury for a variety of different things, attempts to haul him before a court for a variety of different things, allegations of corruption and whatever. Is there anything like that hanging over his head right now? Or is he going to be allowed, do you think, to just kind of crack on with what his policy plans are?
Unfortunately, the lawfare is continuing. As soon as he took office, 5 minutes into his presidency, some groups filed lawsuits again, alleging that the DOJ, the Department of Government Efficiency, was illegal and improper. Yesterday, we saw dozens of lawsuits filed to stop some of his executive orders. I expect that by the end of this week, there'll be hundreds of lawsuits. All of this is an attempt to stop his agenda, to stop the agenda that the American people voted for. I think Donald Trump has an easier task right now because he has a Republican-controlled House and Senate, which means we're not going to be seeing impeachment efforts every week. That would have happened had it been a Democrat-controlled House. Make no mistake, if Hakeem Jeffries were the Speaker of the House of Representatives, yesterday Donald Trump would have impeached as soon as he became president. We're not seeing that, but we are seeing this lawfare. Anything he does, he'll be sued for, and this will tie up government resources. How many millions or hundreds of millions of dollars are American taxpayers paying for these lawsuits? Because this is affecting all of us.
I wonder if the ship has sailed on this. I just wonder whether or not the Democrats or the activists who are doing this are working off a tired playbook. Whether they think, oh, okay, we can get this guy, and the majority of the American public are behind us and we are doing the Lord's work. Whereas actually a lot of people now just think, goodness gracious me, the country's in a bit of a mess. I say that with respect because, we've got our own issues times two over here. The country's in a bit of a mess. We need more efficiency. We need to get this done. Look at the waste of taxpayers' dollars. We've had 8 years really to try and get this guy, just crack on. I wonder if they're working off a tired play, but that of course will not stop them. But look, Gerard, can I just say a massive thank you? And also, can I just say from across the pond over here, I watched Trump's inauguration. I know a lot of people here did in Britain with tremendous optimism, because we do have a special relationship, and I think we lean on you more than you need us at times, don't get me wrong, but we do have a special relationship, and it's in the West's interest that we have a strong America, that we have a powerful America, and I hope that rubs off over here as well. So Gerard, I hope to talk to you again very soon. Good luck to you, God bless, and we'll chat soon. That is Gerard Filitti there, who's the Lawfare Project Senior Counsel and an attorney of note as well. Until next time, thank you.